and protecting the knight on e4. Strategically speaking, Dubov is in a lot of trouble here.
Yeah, because of white squares that you mentioned before, and some tactics now on the board. Knight c6. This is not a free knight. Sadly, e4 knight is hanging as well. So very cool move.
Goes back, knight f6.
But what now? Yeah, what does Daniil have in mind? Only 20 seconds.
Yeah.
I think he's struggling slightly.
Definitely, he has to move the knight or protect it somehow.
Well, I was also considering to play something like e4, but probably waste of time. But 6 seconds, Daniil has to play.
And he goes back knight e5, queen d5.
Oh, Hans definitely in the driver's seat right now.
And h5 immediately. Look at this light square control. It's just so beautiful.
Yeah, it's like, it's such a nice harmony. But rook c5, 5 seconds.
So if I take on c5, how is he going to capture? With a pawn.
Yeah.
Creating a passed pawn, but e3 is hanging.
And another endgame with a pawn down. Always this endgame with a pawn down.
Only 1 second. Pawn down. Look at those beautiful knights on c4 and d5.
Yeah.
E8.
Who needs the bishops when the knights are so nice?
Well, this is still tricky. The pawn on b5 is not so easy to defend.
Yeah. This is not easy at all. And Dubov playing on seconds, but playing very well.
Yeah.
Oh, how am I defending it? 97.
So he takes, I like that, just to get rid of the pressure, but now he goes after the pawn on e5, but rook c1, now c6.
This can turn around, oh no. How is he going to protect? 97, knight c8 looks lost to me.
Okay, to c7, there's still knight takes c7, but
yes.
king f1.
King f1 or
goes for bishop h4, b4, c7.
Oh, so low on time though. 4 seconds.
Wow.
3 seconds.
So he has to give up the rook. Oh, pawn on b3 is going. Oh, still bishop e1 protecting against rook a1 check.
But can white even move something?
I don't see how.
I don't think white can move. I think this is winning for black. Okay, maybe
he has to
winning, but
again the time decides the game.
Oh, this was again unexpected. I don't know. Actually, black is winning in the final position because white has no moves. So Dubov should not be too upset, but very nice calculation that Hans gave a piece in exchange to put a pawn on b2. Very nice. Beautiful.
That was a really nice game by Hans Niemann.
Yeah, impressive. Even though this time management by Dubov is getting shorter and shorter with his time. It's 8 against 7 now. Very, very close. They are taking a slight break to, so have some fresh air, coffee, chess player essentials, maybe some chocolate. I would love to have some chocolate between these games, especially because they're so stressful, Felix. So stressful.
Yeah, absolutely.
And yeah, 3 more games to go. 8 against 7 for Daniil, so still leading.
Yeah, but
I don't think
Hans
we can predict anything.
Yeah, Hans has been coming back now.
Exactly. So after 6 games, it's 3 against 3 today. So they are playing equally well. Very tactical, very dramatic, very quickly. This was actually maybe very strategical masterpiece by Hans, I would say.
Absolutely. The light square control was deciding the game. And Hans now winning 2 games in a row, I think.
Yeah, but on time. Both of them on time.
Yeah, that's true.
And like you said yesterday, it does come down to pure luck at the end. Hans was a queen up in the first game, but time, some blunders, and he lost at the end. So I think that's proof that luck does exist in chess. So we might see a lot of luck in the last 3 games.
Yeah, for sure, especially in Blitz. You can never underestimate the factor of luck there. Your opponent, if it's like a split-second decision with seconds running down your clock, just anything can go in your mind. You just don't want to lose on time. And then all sorts of blunders can happen there.
Yeah, these blitz blunders. Are you ever like extremely upset after losing a blitz game?
Yeah, so many times already. Like you cannot imagine the positions you're often losing in blitz. After that, you're looking back and you're just thinking, how did I manage to lose that position? But with seconds on the clock, anything is possible.
Exactly, but I think here in these blitz games, you have to be a huge endgame expert. Because you can gain an advantage, you can be strategical mastermind, but at the end you're low on time and you have to win an endgame very usually. Would you say that if you play blitz, this is something you have to work on the most, or one of the most, maybe of course tactics first, right?
I would say tactics are first, yeah. Also cannot underestimate the factor of opening preparation, because if you have openings like, for example, DANIIL DUBOV, I think he's a perfect example. He has the openings which he always plays, and he plays them confidently, he plays them fast, and therefore he's such a strong opponent in blitz, because he's just playing the opening so fast and always has a time advantage in most cases. So now we do see e4, knight c6. And knight f3, and DANIIL does transpose with going e5.
You finally got your answer, what would have happened, and we did. It's an Italian. So the one that we saw today already.
Yeah, and DANIIL DUBOV going for the same setup as always with rook e8, bishop e6. And I guess that his point is always he wants to go rook e8 before going bishop e6, so that after knight e5 he can retreat the bishop to f8.
Exactly. And going bishop a2 immediately. Okay.
Yeah.
Smart, because in the last game after c3, DANIIL took on d5, and we had some issues, in the game with this pawn on d5. So yeah, Hans learned his lesson.
And here he goes back to d7 with the bishop, probably preparing to take on d5 with the knight. And c4, very interesting decision.
Yeah, this is now very interesting pawn structure. Yeah, like who is attacking where? I want to go rook b1, but I also want to activate my bishop.
And now bishop b3 back, maybe going to a4. I have to say, I always loved how Hans handles these Italian positions. I often saw him playing for the c4 idea, which is quite untypical in the Italian defense. Usually you want to go c3 and d4, building a big center.
Exactly.
But he was kind of the first one to implement this type of strategy, which when I saw it at first, I was really curious about it.
Yeah, and he plays this structure so well, just very solid structure. And like you said, c3 didn't bring him a good position last time, but it did bring him luck. So now he's just going for his c4. In Blitz, you kind of have to play what you know best, and he seems to know best.
And there was a pawn which dropped on a5.
Was it a blunder, or was it?
It was a double attack, queen d2 attacking the pawn on h6 and the pawn on a5.
So that was missed by DUBOV. I didn't see any shaking heads, so I was not sure.
Yeah, that's something quite easy. You can see you never really expect a double attack on a pawn on h6 and a pawn on a5.
Yeah, it's true, especially in Italian positions, but this c4 seems to be proving very good points.
Hans just continuing to gain space on the queen side where he has the extra pawn, and DUBOV going for the all-out attack on the king side with g5.
Oh,
d4.
Wow. Does that work? Seems to be working to open up this bishop. Yeah, it's kind of a known saying that if you are getting attacked, just usually the best is to attack back in the center. It's where it's gonna hurt the most for the opponent to open the position there. So Hans just following that advice that he got probably from one of his mentors or from many lessons that he took.
Absolutely. See rook g8, f6, not really a move you want to make. Bishop on g7 is not really happy there. But still there are some threats. With rook g8, he is already hinting on the fact that g4 could come at some moment.
Yeah, it never feels comfortable when Dubov is attacking you, even though it's your opponent. So I wouldn't be so sure that this is a game over. In fact, I would dare to say it can go wrong anytime. And Dubov, by the way, playing much faster right now.
Yeah, we have to keep a lookout on the clock. Dubov, 2 minutes and 20 seconds. King h8, just stepping out of the 7th rank with the rook being on a7. Nice move as well.
Okay, but how am I gonna play g4? Do you want to put your bishop on f8? I really thought we are gonna go bishop h8, actually.
I also thought so, yeah.
So that's an interesting plan. I don't know what Dubov has in mind, except that he wants to put Hans under time pressure. That's for sure something that he wants to do.
Yeah, I think that's also a great strategy. He realizes he's a pawn down, he has a bad position, so he just speeds up and puts the pressure on the clock on Hans.
Exactly, so that's smart, but I wonder, okay, bishop f8, I don't like this bishop there, but I guess we have to play g4 somehow.
Yeah, also king on h8 seems safer, first of all, because of the 7th rank, also because of the bishop on c2 that is always hinting on the fact that the king
that
is
could
there.
Open up potentially. Okay, can I go knight h2? Seems to be very safe.
Yeah, he goes for that.
And I feel like the attack is almost over for black.
Yeah, still h5. As he played g4, still might be coming. I also have to agree. I don't think the attack should be enough, objectively speaking, but
yeah, but
as you said, when Dubov is attacking you, nothing feels easy.
Yeah, it just doesn't feel comfortable at all. So I think, what if I go for g4 now as DANIIL? Is f4 hanging somehow?
I would think so. So if g4, h takes g4, so he takes on d5 first, which opens up the diagonal for the bishop on c2.
Not my favorite move for black, but I guess he had to do something about f4.
Yeah, you have to watch out with black in case the 7th rank opens up for the rook on a7. There's always rook h7 with checkmate.
Oh, that would be beautiful. If that's somehow like b6, like you put your bishop on h3 and then somehow there's checkmate on h7.
Yeah, exactly.
Just very sophisticated move, knight f1. Yeah, I don't see how black is pushing anything, in fact.
It's difficult. Yeah, maybe bishop h6 to prepare g4.
Smart.
But the bishop might also be hanging there. Queen f6 first. So he needs to protect f4. Yeah, now b6.
Cute, very cute.
Now he has to go all in.
Yeah, no
the queen side is collapsing, but
20 seconds though for Hans.
Yeah. Bishop takes f4. I guess he needs to keep the queens on the board. He takes f4. Not so simple.
Ooh, just taking on g4. I would be considering something like h4 myself to keep everything close, but this seems to be a very good move.
Yeah, and how do you recapture? Are you going to take with the pawn? Dubov is definitely thinking about it, because it might be also an idea to keep the g file open, but he does capture with the pawn. The rook b1.
Yeah, and now I wonder, can I play some g3? But there's never any checkmate on h2, so...
He goes for it.
Okay, but I just take it now, right? Oh, just take on c7.
Take on c7 first, yeah. The knight on f1 is doing a beautiful job, always covering the h2 square.
I cannot say some queen h4 can come, but it doesn't mean anything. It has exactly 0 threats. Yeah, I think very clean so far by Hans. No fear for Dubov. I don't see, I think he can try taking and going queen h4 and maybe hoping for a trick, but...
Goes bishop g7. Maybe he wants to go queen d4 in some cases, but...
Okay, that's actually a fair idea. Smart.
Hans below 10 seconds. Now it's...
if he goes for b1, tricky. That's a very fearful move. But now...
idea of queen h5. Now bishop d4 is a big threat.
Yeah.
Just a few seconds for Hans. Queen d2 back.
But now queen e5 can also be
queen e5.
A trick.
Also 10 seconds for DANIIL Dubov.
Wow, okay, so this is not so clear. 5 seconds. Bishop
Goes
c8,
back, bishop c8.
But I think, ooh, g4. These
Now
bishops,
bishop d4 is coming. This looks quite dangerous all of a sudden.
Very nice. Knight h2, king h1. Oh, king f1.
King f1 even, not staying on the h file.
Not taking any risk about giving a checkmate. Getting a checkmate, actually. Ooh,
Knight f3, e4
Hans?
is hanging, but d4 is hanging as well.
Yeah, very nice.
I think that's game over.
I think this is GG as well, and yeah, also lost some time.
Yeah. Wow.
I
had a feeling like Daniil Dubov was back in the game. Let me just briefly.
Yeah, please do check it out. Especially after this queen e2 maneuver, I feel like there was. I think bishop c8 could have been wrong.
Bishop c8 was the fatal mistake, and Hans brilliantly took advantage of it by capturing on g3.
Okay, so instead of bishop c8, queen h4 was moved to be kept in the game. Wow, okay, that was dramatic. Again, like when Dubov is attacking you, nothing is over, you know, he's attacking, he always has some ideas. I didn't even consider playing bishop g7 and going queen d4 or bishop d4. That was very resourceful of him.
Yeah.
But now, by the way, score is 8 against 8. So only 2 games left, and we have no leader anymore. So yeah, just 2 more games, and somebody just, you know, needs to make 1.5 to win. And there have been 0 draws in this match, 0. So it's going to be very exciting, and new game underway right now.
Yeah, and this time we see a completely new opening, which we're not really used to.
How this is like slaw, but with g3 as white. So this is not as good as the original Catalan. I think it's more stable for black, but it did transpose into closed Catalan right now. I think
it's quite similar, quite untypical that the bishop is on b4 in those positions. Usually it goes back to e7, but it's actually quite useful because e4 is not possible now, what white would like to get, because black can capture on c3 and then on e4.
Exactly. b6 also a great move. You want to put this bishop on a6 if you have the chance, but on b7 it's as good as well. Yeah.
And bishop g5 on the board.
Okay, now I will go, if I go h6, I guess knight d7 could be an idea, potentially. Don't know if it works, but something to consider.
Yeah, definitely. And that's why Hans goes back bishop e7, breaking the pin.
Yeah, then you want to go h6 after that. You just want to push this bishop from the square, basically asking it where you're going. Oh, e4 now. That's
the thematic break. Opening up the bishop on g2. And what is Hans going to do here? It does look like white has achieved something here.
Yeah, okay, so I guess bishop e7 then was not such a great move, because if you allow e4, and if black bishop stays on b7, so I mean that he doesn't have c5 break, white is better.
Definitely. Hans is under pressure.
I think I will go knight e4, bishop e7, queen e7. Knight e4, d takes e4. What are you taking with the queen?
Probably
or the bishop?
with the bishop to
knight f6, and then I go maybe c5 if I can.
But can I take c6 there?
Oh, maybe you can. Maybe you can, yeah. So I cannot play knight f6. Correct, yeah. Knight e5, then maybe I would have to consider knight e5, but yes, this is not good for black. I agree. And Hans thinking for a minute already.
Yeah, rook c8, getting ready for the c file to open up. I like that move.
This is, I think, typical position where computer will now say +2 for white strategically. Yeah, it's +1. Yeah, okay.
Oh, so much even.
I know, I play this position sometimes myself, and I'm always so shocked that the engine loves this with white. Yeah, somehow this knight d7 could be very annoying, and after knight d7, bishop e7, and now it's just something opening on the d file, you know. We will see it on the board. I think Daniil also knows these structures very well.
Definitely. And he does capture with the queen.
Okay. Yes, this is usually the problem if you do capture with the queen.
Yeah, this structure looks pretty passive for black, kind of a French structure.
Yeah.
Where black is stuck with a bad French bishop on b7. And knight a4, also beautiful move. Pressuring the point on b6.
Yeah, actually, going b5 would then allow knight jumping on c5 in the future.
Yeah.
But he goes for it.
Goes for it anyway. So maybe Dubov wants to take on b5 first and then go knight c5. That would be one idea. I think he's going for it. So the knight on c5, of course, super powerful piece.
Beautiful, very beautiful. And this bishop on c6 is now stuck behind his white pawns.
Yeah, strategically it is looking very promising for Daniil.
Yeah, so like this is again, Hans tried to play the slaw, but Dubov did transpose into his Catalan position somehow. You know, he always manages to get what he wants from the opening. And also, he's up a minute in a Blitz game. That's a lot.
Yeah, that's a big upside for him here. Knight c7 and just immediately played rook c2, doubling up the rooks on the c file.
Very nice. This is a very hard position for Hans.
Yeah, super
very
tough.
Hard. You can go bishop b5, but somehow these two rooks on the c file seem to be brutal.
Yeah, it looks super good for white.
But how can I take advantage of it? Can I go f4? What would you do?
I would go h4 without hesitation here.
h4.
Just typical alpha zero move.
Yeah.
h4, h5, anywhere.
Yeah, actually love that. Forcing black to play h6 himself, but I love that. I hope Daniil will go for it.
Yeah, he's
I myself am more. Yeah, please go ahead.
He's spending some time here as well.
Yes, he should. But not too much, Daniil, because then you're catching up on Hans's time.
Exactly, yeah.
And f4, it's, you know, the dynamic duo, you know, f4 always works. Maybe h4 will come in the future, though.
Yeah, f4 also quite typical. And bishop c4.
Sorry,
what is his idea?
Yeah,
he's just provoking b3. Maybe the c3 square could play a role if the knight can get there.
I think that's very slow, but again, he has to do something.
Knight a6, f5. Yeah, it's getting quite dangerous with f6 to come.
Oof. I would be sweating.
Queen e7 still covering.
Very good, stopping queen g5 from happening as well. That's. I want to then. I'm always ready to sacrifice something. Knight e6, you know, like this rook on c8 is not protected, so I really want to make some tricks. f6 now, a winning threat.
Yeah.
In fact, yeah.
What can you do against bishop d3? Yeah, still that the bishop could drop back to g6, but
very nice.
Even here f6, yeah, and it's played by Daniil. Dubov, queen a7, queen g5. Are you gonna play bishop g6? Yeah, he prepares it with h4 so that now after bishop g6 there can be h5 always, but Hans is fighting, yeah?
He is.
This is always what happens.
Very good defense so far by Hans. Amazing. I'm impressed, actually.
Still, it's probably lost because g5 is coming.
It's also lost because there's no counterplay on the c file, at least if there was something, you know. But somehow...
King h7, another great move. Stepping out of the g file.
Wow. How can I continue? Do I go g5 with white now? No, maybe that's too much.
g5.
Yeah, first asking the bishop to move.
But is the bishop getting trapped now somewhere? If I go rook c1?
But bishop a2?
And then rook a1?
Bishop b3.
Yeah, there's going to be counterplay, yeah?
Queen d4, it's coming.
He goes for a similar plan. Bishop d3 played, queen e3. Once again, repeating moves.
That was very close to losing on time. I think Hans panicked a bit. King h2, and now we can think about how to trap the bishop. I don't see it, and Daniel doesn't see it either. Maybe what's wrong with queen d2? Bishop e4. Okay.
Yeah. Now rook c1 is played. Now king is on h2. But there's a check. Queen d3. Now rook a1.
What? Why didn't he?
Bishop b3.
Why didn't he go for queen d2 immediately?
I don't know. He's giving up so many pawns. I think
he's messing up his advantage.
Yeah. This can go wrong. King g3, trying to get rook h1. Queen f8, protecting everything.
I think he's very upset with himself right now.
I think Hans is gonna take this one home. Queen a5.
Daniel is just so upset with himself right now.
But bishop c2.
Hanging the rook on g6, taking it. Does Hans have something? Playing queen d2, maybe
2 seconds. 1 second.
I'm so nervous. But queen d2 is that.
Queen f8 still.
Okay, the only chance, but this
Wow.
seems to be...
Queen f7. Is there a perpetual? Is he going for it?
Seems that there is.
Pawn on b2 is about to promote. I think Daniel needs to go for it.
Okay, wow.
What happened here?
Okay, so let's check what was the evaluation of this position. I was so sure Daniel will take this game. These attacks seem brilliant, but Hans, wow, I'm so impressed with his defense.
Yeah, brutal. The defense was absolutely